Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. I've been told to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but I don't know how to do it. Who's going to tell me how to do it? What's the first thing I do?
Open your bread.
Open the jars.
Open the jars, open the bread. Someone's done this task before. All right. What next?
With your knife.
Take my knife. What next?
I think you should get the peanut butter out first, but you gotta get the bread first.
Gotta get the bread
Get the
first.
peanut butter out. How?
Well, you can use your fingers,
I could. You want me to use my fingers?
or your tongue, or the...
How about your toes?
I'm going to stop before this gets very messy. I've done this task before with people, and I have grabbed the peanut butter out with my hands, so definitely not a first time for this. What I decided to do was pick something that's rather ubiquitous for everyone. We all know how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But the basic gist is that we don't always remember how to give directions, and that's what the basic point of my task is. Now, you guys kind of have been the first group that have started with open the bread. There have been many times that I've put the jar of peanut butter on the loaf of bread because they told me to do so. This is something that we just think, it's something we know, and it's something that we don't do with any thinking. And so that's what my reminder is today for you, is as you're giving directions to your employees, to a coworker, to a child, to anyone, either A, they're going to try to find loopholes, not intentionally, but as you're giving directions, think about what you're telling them. First of all, start with language. When I say the words chart, CC, and expired, if you're in the medical industry, then you're thinking about medical charts, 2 cc's of medicine. Expired means somebody that's passed on. When I am working in a nonprofit and membership, an expired member is just someone who didn't pay their dues. I can CC on an email, and a chart might just be me making an Excel spreadsheet. So when you're introducing someone to something, make sure that you're using the language that they know. And if you're using a language that's specific for your industry, make sure that you're thinking about that. I recently started a new job, and I have never been in the medical industry, and they started throwing acronyms at me. And they would say, I'd like you to write a procedure on this because we're building a new department. And I said, well, that's nice. Let me Google what you're saying, and then let me do it. So that's something to think about as you're giving procedures as well to someone. What you also want to think about is how that person, as you're giving the directions, watch the people as you're giving it to them. Are they looking at you? Are they looking like that it makes sense, or are they staring at you in space, going, "What is this? I don't understand." Make sure that they're asking questions. Now, since you guys you knew what I was going to do here on this, one of the things that you want to do as you are receiving directions, or you want to also ask questions. You see, I did this at my old job the first time, and they all, that was when I stuck my hand in the peanut butter jar. The next time I was giving them another analogy, but they thought I was doing this again. So I told them to tell me how to get to Dunkin' Donuts, but I wanted them to ask me questions, and they didn't ask any questions. So I had someone give me a 3-page documentation on how to get to Dunkin' Donuts, which is 1 block away from the old office. So make sure that you're paying attention. There's open dialogue between the people that you're working with. Ask questions on both sides. Sometimes people need written documentation. If you have a lot of description that you need to give them, give it to them so that they have it so they can slowly process through it. If they are a person who needs to see it, who needs to do it, start to know your audience as you're giving it, and you'll open a lot of communication in your office so that the people you're working with don't sit there and go, okay, I have to go get directions again. I really don't want to because I'm not going to remember them again. What do I do with this next? One other thing you want to do is give them a clear goal in mind. I said I needed to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. What if I didn't know what a peanut butter and jelly sandwich was supposed to look like? Put peanut butter on the side of the bread? Could that be where the crust is? Could that be on the white side of the bread? Where is this? So make sure that you're looking and saying, okay, how can I make sure that the person knows what an end goal is. If you don't have an end goal, maybe when you're working on directions or working on a project, make sure that you're giving them guidelines throughout. Maybe it's stopping in the middle of the project so they don't completely veer on left course. So as you're going through, think about it for everyone. Your children, your employees, your coworkers. Save a little bit of stress, open communication. Try this with the people you work with. See what happens. This is easy. It's something to do to remind you, oh yes, I know how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But then when you get into something where you're an engineer and you have crazy reports and math and all the junk that I refuse to touch, then you'll be able to explain it to them just a little bit easier. Thank you.
Two things I learned last week.
Oh, last week, oh yeah.
It's okay, because part two of my speech, when I get into what is up to the last few days, you'll understand that the early part would be a little bit more difficult. I learned a lot the past week. Very busy week, very fun week. I got something I want to show you guys that I think will help all the speakers in the room that do presentations, and then I got something fun. All right, the first thing, I found a way to give a presentation with PowerPoint and be able to walk around the room with a phone or a tablet and be able to flip slides and have access to notes. I'll show you what I'm talking about. About a month ago, not even a month ago, Apple released a new version of their iOS operating system. Everyone here knows I'm a techie. My last presentation was on how to make your notes searchable and indexable, and something that you could take a way to limit all the notebooks and make it so you can search your handwritten notes. Well, this one is how to take your PowerPoints and make it so you can be more interactive with your audience. The new iOS version allows you to have a peer-to-peer technology. So if you have an Apple TV and you have an HDMI cable, you can take an iPhone and make a connection. I have with me my standard iPhone. They've gotten a lot bigger. It has, if I scroll up from the bottom, there's an option to choose AirPlay. And when I choose AirPlay, I can choose Apple TV and mirror. Once I do that, it's going to play or show whatever's on my screen. Now where this gets interesting is if, for example, you have a presentation. Now remember, my presentation last week was a pen, a notebook, and Evernote. And I'm able to move, just like if I have a remote control, anywhere in the room, just by clicking through. And I can see my notes. Now for me, a small screen like this is fine, and I don't need reading glasses. I can see my notes, and I can easily just keep this at my side and flip through my notes. Where that becomes powerful is when I'm sitting in front of, when I'm giving presentations to a group of clients, or when I'm sitting in front of a group of people, and I need my notes for a key point, but I don't want to have that big notebook. It's kind of getting in the way of my interaction with my clients. You know, I want to be able to move around and address people a little more. You can make this kind of connection with any device. You know, I have a larger device here, but any Apple device with the latest version of iOS, their latest version of their operating system, would allow you to do that. I'm going to show you. Again, I went down from the bottom, I flicked it up, and I chose to put on my Apple TV and mirror. So all of a sudden my presentations will be a whole lot easier to groups of people, because I'll be able to move around with my whole presentation right here in front of me. All right, this wasn't really even possible until the past month, because previously I needed a network connection. I needed a Wi-Fi connection in order to make that type of wireless connection possible. But a lot of times I was at a client site and I wasn't able to jump on their Wi-Fi. Or there would be some sort of issue like in here where there really isn't Wi-Fi. this is what my screen looks like. As you can see, I've got my why, what you guys are seeing, on one side, and I have my notes that are my talking points on the other. So, just something I wanted to share with everybody that anybody that has to do presentations in front of large groups might appreciate and make their lives a little bit easier and eliminate some of the barriers, such as a computer that's always right here that you have to go back to for flipping a slide, or a little program button, or a little receiver button that you can actually flip the slides, but you can't see your notes. And you don't want to be carrying around something that, like a padded notebook for your notes. So hopefully that helps make somebody else's life easier. Now the second part of my pocket speech, the second thing I learned in the past week is Disney World is like alcohol. It's best in moderation. I just got back from Disney World. I'm talking 8 o'clock last night. 8 o'clock last night, I get back in the house, finally, from being in Disney World. I got my check mark. You notice the finally? I got my check mark. There's 2 reasons why Disney World is like alcohol. First, it makes you do dumb stuff. Countless times, I found myself and others just taking their kids to the point of exhaustion. You know, I saw one kid just screaming, probably because they were just tired and wanted to take a nap. I saw 100 or more. My own kids, who I know very well, I took to the park, and the first part of the day was awesome. And then I made the mistake on the first day of taking my kids back out to the park. I went to Epcot because it's Food and Wine Festival. You know, my wife's excited. Food and wine. This is an adult thing. Kids were falling asleep in the park. Arguments were starting. And it was ugly. So like alcohol, I vow I will never do this again. 2 days later, I'm back at Epcot at 10 o'clock at night with kids that are very tired. I did not learn my lesson. The second reason why it's like alcohol is at the end, if you've had a lot of fun, you get a lot of a bill. You get a very large bill. When I go out and drink beers, wine, whatever, 1 or 2, you're fine. Your bill's not bad. But if you don't practice moderation, next thing you know, you realize, oh my premium beer, because I drink gluten-free, is $10 a pop, and I had how many? My wife, her wine, $15 a glass. How much did she drink, and when did I start buying for other people? So, in summary, those are 2 things I learned the past week. I hope you will learn from both. This Toastmasters.
South Park Toastmasters is so special.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests, whose job is it to talk up Toastmasters and promote it outside the club? Well, it's Brendan's job, he's VP. Whose job is it to work on bringing new members in the club? That's Peter, he's VP of membership. I guess I'm the face of the club, I'm the president. Well, it's ridiculous, of course. It's really everybody's job. We're all chartered with talking about Toastmasters outside of our club, with encouraging guests to come visit our club, with being the face of South Park Toastmasters publicly. Now, you may know somebody, you probably know somebody who is interested in working on their skill set, or they know somebody that would like to work on public speaking skills, or they would benefit from visiting a Toastmasters meeting. So how do you talk to them about what makes South Park Toastmasters so great and why they should come and sit in on one of our meetings? Well, to me, the first thing that really makes South Park Toastmasters special has got to be the club longevity. If you go on Toastmasters.org, you'll see that this club was founded in 1983. Easy for me to remember. The club's basically been around as long as I've been alive. Now, another statistic that I didn't really find a whole lot of backing on, but a couple of websites mentioned that the average life of a club is somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 months. Now, that's pretty short. There's probably a lot of clubs that don't get off the ground, and maybe some that last 4 or 5 years that bring down that average. But 18 months to 30 years. That's a club that you know is going to be around as you go through the Toastmasters program, which often takes a couple of years or more. It's going to be around if you want to come back to Toastmasters for some education in the future. There's a lot of stability there. Also, when you talk about South Park Toastmasters' long history, we've got more than 10 plus years of consecutive Distinguished Club Awards. And I say 10 because that's as far back as Toastmasters.org goes. I'm sure it's longer than that. And that doesn't just mean a banner full of ribbons. It means that Toastmasters, South Park Toastmasters has the ability to bring in and retain new members, push those members through the goals for them to achieve, and come out of the program better public speakers. And it's also impressive to think that on average, I was able to read that most clubs turn over about a third of their members each year. So again, to stick around for 3 decades against those headwinds are the hallmarks of a wonderful club. And that's a great history lesson, but most people probably want to know what South Park Toastmasters like today. What is it going to do for me? Well, there's Toastmasters Club everywhere. If you go online, you'll find they're actually quite ubiquitous. And Toastmasters clubs are often geared towards a certain segment of the population, a certain market, a corporate club that is focused on that company's members. And that is nice, but it probably introduces an element of homogeneity that you don't get at South Park Toastmasters. Because we're right here in one of the largest business communities of Charlotte, where we can cater to business professionals, and we know South Park has some of the city's best financial professionals, sales professionals, engineers, educators, small business owners, and many of them have taken the time to join our club and be a part of it. So you get a diverse range of experiences, you get a diverse range of speaking topics, you'll hear a lot of perspectives, and you'll really learn from a variety of professionals here in South Park. Also, I think what's nice about the membership is it's right-sized. If you look at the average club size, it probably ranges around 20 or just below, which is a nice size, but we tend to keep our membership a little bit above 20. And that encourages, like we have today, just the right amount of participation. We've got a full meeting where just about everybody gets the opportunity to participate. And we know that Toastmasters is a highly participatory experience. Everybody gets the opportunity to speak or evaluate or say something with their roles without having to juggle multiple roles. So members of South Park Toastmasters enjoy a membership size that's just big enough to get the right amount of turnout without straining members to hold multiple roles during a meeting. Now, the third point that I would make, because for a lot of people, the decision to join any club like Toastmasters is just a matter of convenience. Can I fit it into my schedule? Well, I really like the time that South Park Toastmasters meets. Quite honestly, it's convenient for anybody who eats lunch. You eat lunch, right? Not just because we have lunch at the meeting, that's great, but by having the meetings during lunch on a Monday, it occurs at a natural break during your day. It's probably about time to get out of the office. It's probably about time to take your mind off the daily grind. You might be heading out anyway to grab a meal. Why don't you do that here at South Park Toastmasters? Now, for me personally, there's a lot of evening clubs out there, and to me, I would be squeezing in dinner or trying to figure out who's going to take care of the kids during that time. A breakfast club might leave you with a little bit of an empty feeling in the morning. So make it a working lunch. We make it very easy. You can order ahead of time. You can have a hot lunch ready for you when you arrive, and you can eat lunch, something you'd be doing anyways, and take something back to the office to help power you through the rest of the day. So in summary, the next time you're talking to somebody who's thinking about Toastmasters, remember that South Park Toastmasters has a long and distinguished history with a diverse membership and a great meeting time. So make sure whoever is interested in building their public speaking skills, first that they know about Toastmasters, that they commit to visit somebody's club, and that club is South Park Toastmasters, and they join.
Well, it gives me great pleasure to evaluate Emily's speech today entitled Peanut Butter and Jelly. And before we began, I said to Emily, gosh, you can just speak circles around me. And she said, well, the way I do my speech is I develop it while I'm up here. Now, this is the problem I have, is I have a written speech, and I become married to the speech, and that holds me back. So I have learned something, and I'm trying to be more like Emily in my speeches, because I think it's a better way of speaking. Now, Emily's speech today was based on body movement, which includes eye contact, facial expression, and so many other things. And the body, what I thought was really clever is that she took the topic and she gave an example of communicating something within that topic. She just didn't give a speech about body language, but she showed how you can use body language to get across your ideas. So number one thing would, of course, be using simple words interacting with the person, and she was interacting with each of us through her body language, through eye contact. And also by showing a very friendly, engaging, and she was excited too, which I was too, because I love peanut butter and jelly. It's one of my favorite things. So that was a great topic. She had a lot of good vocal variety, very relaxed, very engaging, I thought, with the audience. And it was great to start out with the peanut butter and jelly because it got our attention. And then we went from there to maybe some other topics that you might encounter in business. Now, some ways you could improve, I think, is to go in front of the lectern and really engage us. And the other thing, I loved some of your body language, but you could have gone into bigger and larger motions of the body. But overall, you did so many good things, and Emily had given me a list that she got on the internet about evaluating your body's spoken image. And posture, was she poised, confident, comfortable, relaxed? Yes. Gestures, lively, meaningful, natural? Yes. Body movements were very purposeful, the way you counted off things for us. Facial expressions, you were animated and expressive. I like that. And your eye contact was very smooth. So overall, I think it was really clever. As many years as I've been in here, I've never really seen anybody use the topic to show how you can get your message across through body language. You're a very relaxed, very good speaker, and you did a wonderful job. I loved your speech.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Brian is going to be giving a speech in a contest. Many of you know he stood right here and he gave a speech in a humor contest right here in our club. He then advanced to the next level. That's the area contest. And he won. So he is now going to be representing our club and our area in the division contest. Brian is focused on the humorous speech. In my opinion, this is one of the hardest speeches you can possibly give. It's challenging, it's difficult, but Brian continues to work and build his craft. And what you saw today was a perfect example of how he does that. What do I mean by that? One of the biggest things you have to have in order to be a humorous speaker is the ability to be relaxed, the ability to think on your feet, the ability to react to the audience member when whatever they say, whatever they do. And so one of the most important things you can develop is comfort level in front of an audience. That comes through practice. There was no objective for Brian's speech today that I'm aware of, but I'm going to give him one. I'm going to invent it myself. It's the objective of just standing up and practicing something that's relatively impromptu. Because that does a lot of things for you. Number one, it gives you confidence to be able to do it. I encourage everybody here to think of a topic that you're familiar with, like taking a trip to Disney World, or doing something techie, or thinking about a current event that you're familiar with. Put a little framework in your mind, walk up to this group, and just try to develop the speech the way that Emily described, right in front of the audience. You may never do that in a really important professional setting, but it'll give you the confidence that if you're ever struggling, if you're ever lost for words, you can know you've proven it, that you can step up and think through and process what's going on. Brian proved that yet again with a nice impromptu speech. He practiced, but what he showed us a couple of things. Number one, poise. He showed that comfort level with the audience that I have seen develop over the year or two or three or so that he has been a part of this particular club. I also saw something in Brian that I think has really helped him with the humorous contest, which is his facial expression. Brian's got a great way of delivering a line, pausing, and then breaking into that smile. And it's a killer smile. And so most of the time I just laugh at him because of his smile. No, I'm just kidding. He does a great job with that. Now, if there's anything I could give Brian some feedback on that evaluate this speech as well as the humorous speech that I've seen him do a couple of times now, it would be his hand movements. Brian tends to get like this. I see his fingers kind of curl a little bit sometimes. He was holding the phone in one hand, so that helped kind of hide that a little bit over here. But if there's one thing we want to do is be more intentional with the hands. So if we're not using them, drop them. If we are using them, have the phone, be intentional, bring it back down, and figure out how you're going to control those. The best way to figure that out, watch yourself on video. See what you're doing, and then start storyboarding how you want that to look. Overall, Brian did a great job. I'm excited to see him compete on Wednesday night, and I think he did fantastic. Mr. General Evaluator.
We're losing our witness.
I guess I need to update my bio, but that'll be another day. General Evaluator, Jeff, fellow members, guests. Jeff's task today was to persuade with power. Speech number 9 in our booklet of competent communicators. So you would expect most of the things he did were at or above par, essentially. Having gotten this far in the book, having been here as long as he has, having filled as many roles as he had, you would expect a good speech, and indeed that's what I saw. A couple of things that he was asked to do was to be sincere, be a credible source. Clearly that came through. He was a credible source of information for us. Did he appeal to our self-interest? I would say yes, that was also accomplished. Did he... The one thing I want to point out about Jeff's presentation overall was that it was very smooth, very practiced, but to me it lacked just a little bit of life. What I mean by that is some of the things that we do that take time to learn, pausing, vocal variety, body language, these are skills that you have to use by practicing them and improving. So what I heard from Jeff was a very level presentation, great points. Notice that he used no notes at all, which I thought was a plus. Again, after speech 5 or 6, I think you should be able to do a whole presentation in 5 to 7 minutes without notes. So he did that, but it was almost a little bit on the formulaic side. And since you're approaching number 10 and completing the Competent Communicator book, I feel it's appropriate to point out things you can improve on. Body language overall was good. He kept eye contact with the audience. He scanned the audience on a regular basis. When he wasn't sure of how to utilize his hands, he did the standard triangle fingertip that we learned. Great way if you're not sure what to do with your hands, to just do that. Once or twice, you went to the ring rotation. You notice that? Okay. Which is great, the fact that you're noticing it, because oftentimes people don't notice it. The video tape will help you notice that. So try and stay away from that. He pointed to the awards with his whole body. So he was able to use the body language very effectively. I would simply like to see more emotion. If I could wrap everything up, I would expect a financial advisor, representative, manager to be measured, paced, prepared, effective, logical, all those things you do in your job. But this speech was about persuading with power. So what I would like to see next time is just to ramp it up a little bit so we can see those other things come into play. Mr. General Evaluator.
And try our hand at thinking on our feet when somebody asks a question. I'm going to throw a bunch of softballs at you today. These are going to be pretty easy, and by softball, I mean we're going to talk a little baseball. Why not? It's playoffs. They just started. It's exciting. Now, if you know baseball, great. You might have a great answer. If you don't know baseball, great. It's still a great answer. It doesn't matter. You're just coming up here to talk about it. So I look forward to hearing from everybody, potentially, because everybody's fair game. Everybody has a role. Everybody's in on this, except for our visitor necessarily. Would you like to participate if it comes your way, or would you prefer to defer?
I might give it a try.
All right. So you're fair game then. You're in now. Playoffs came. One of the heartbreaks for many teams is that they would go through a season, they'd have a great season, they might even win the most games in the major leagues, such as the Anaheim Angels, and then they would get swept in the playoffs, 3-0, and they're out, just like that. You're the coach of the team, and you're back in the locker room.